This is a Power 98.7 podcast. Now we're talking. Subscribe to Power 98.7 podcasts in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. There's more on power987.co.za.
Power Up. Weekdays 3 to 6 a.m. on Power 98.7.
At 24 minutes to 5, Power Up on Power 98.7, as we always do on a Monday. Let's find out what's happening in this beautiful continent of ours, starting with Cameroon. Joining us on the line, as usual, Patrick Ayu from the Soya Democracy and Human Rights Center. Samuel Wazizi, a Cameroonian journalist, died in government detention. Who was arrested in August last year for criticizing the government's handling of a separatist revolt, and now we are told he has died in detention. This was a report that came from Reporters Without Borders. Patrick Ayu joins us on the line to tell us more about that. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning, Kwena.
Are you well?
Good morning to listeners. I'm good, and you?
Thank you. We're good this side. Just tell us a little bit more about the reports coming through of Samuel Wazizi. What actually happened? Because as I did say that he was arrested in August for criticizing the government, and then now we are told that he has died in detention.
Yeah, Wazizi, as you rightly said, was arrested in August 2019, and what has happened to him is the ordeal that many journalists go through, especially journalists from the Anglophone regions of Cameroon, where a war is going on there because of their stand for the right to self-determination. So journalists are reporting what is happening on the ground, and Wazizi was one of those journalists that stood for objectivity and giving concrete evidence of the atrocities of the regime. So the regime wasn't happy. One day they went to his house in Soya and met him there, and they said, the military said he is a great journalist, he has been doing a good work, and their boss want to talk to him. And they took him from there. After taking him from there on that day of August, he was taken to Yaoundé, and the military detention camp, and to the detention area. He was tortured in the process, and he died right in August. But the government kept it. The lawyers of Wazizi have been searching for him. The family have been trying to get access to him, but the military tribunal or the government forces refused access until when there was a signal that maybe he has died, and that came out this year, 2020. The pressure increased both locally and internationally that they need Wazizi dead or alive. If it's dead, the government should show its scoff, and so that the family can have some closure. So because of this serious pressure, the government had to come out that he died in 2020, in August, and they informed his family that same period that he died under detention. Now, they came out with a fake report that he was sick of something, certain disease, and he died, and which it's a lie. So because of pressure, and other journalists have been protesting, and the family has refused that they were not told about their brother's death and what took place also. So that is what is taking place. And recently we have other journalists that are still in detention. And we are afraid that the same ordeal, that the same unfortunate circumstances that happened with the assassination of Samuel Wazizi might happen with other journalists that are in detention.
So generally, it sounds like, again, there's a lot of loopholes around the story of exactly what happened to Wazizi as things stand. What then are the steps going forward to try and find out the real truth? And do you feel, Patrick, that the real truth will ever come out?
The real truth, because of the nature and how the regime operates, you will not have the real truth. Remember that they refused but the people have already known the truth. What the people are saying, there are a lot of journalists on the ground, and the lawyers were following up. So the truth is already there. He was assassinated, tortured, and killed. He was tortured by the regime and finally killed. So that's specifically an assassination exercise. And that is what the regime has been doing. Remember that the Ngabu massacre, the regime came out and said no, they were not responsible. It was an incident that took place because of the regime intervention to stop the operation of separatist forces, which was a lie. And under serious international pressure, the regime accepted that they actually killed women and children at Ngabu. This is exactly what is happening with Wazizi's case. They were refused, but the world has already known the truth. And what journalists are reporting on the ground, especially journalists that came out to protest that they need the life of the body of their colleague, or they want to see him alive or dead. So that is exactly the truth. Whatever comes from the regime, it's a junta that never tells the truth, and it is brutal, and it's out to put down anybody whatsoever that wants to say the truth about the regime. You should remember that people like Mimi Mofu, journalist, she was also arrested, and she, I think, in one time like that appeared in your program.
Yes, we spoke to her.
She talked about her situation.
Yes.
Yeah. She's no longer in Cameroon. She has to run to Germany, and now she's staying in Germany. She's based in Germany. That is the torture that people go through, especially journalists. And you also know that there is one other person that is a journalist, Njoka Kingsley. He is presently in detention. He was arrested in May 15, 2020. So there is pressure that Njoka Kingsley might also have the same circumstances. He might be dead by now. We don't know. But human rights groups, Soya and other international organizations, and journalists on the ground are also intensifying the pressure that they want to see the body or want to see Njoka Kingsley dead or alive. So because they are afraid that he might be one of the victims. The Manto BBC is also a journalist that have been given 15 years imprisonment in Cameroon prisons because he is an Anglophone, he's a Southern Cameroonian, and he's speaking the truth about the atrocities of the regime. So if you want to get concrete truth from the regime, you will never get it. But the world is a global village. And today there's a lot of high tech that you cannot hide anything that people cannot see. So that is exactly what is happening.
So now, Patrick, do we know when, is there a timeline as to exactly when and how the killing happened? Because, Kawala, the opposition figure and social activist, wrote on his Twitter that 300 days the family was looking for his son. Loved ones were searching 300 days where nobody knew where he is, and then suddenly we are told that he's dead. Is there an idea as to when and how he was tortured and killed, and for the family to get a bit of closure, as it were?
Yeah, it might not be so specific because of the way the government operates, but it should be that he was tortured immediately and he died in the process. And that's why they had to keep it as a secret. If he was still alive, there are some of the journalists that the government allows access, and there are some people that are arrested or abducted from southern Cameroon and moved to Cameroon, to Yaoundé or Douala detention areas in Boya. If they are alive, there will be access to their lawyers or family members, or if there is pressure. But in this circumstance, I think summary execution took place. He was killed immediately. He was arrested or abducted. So that's exactly what might have happened. So to get a clear time frame of what happened, the nature of the action and keeping him without access to his lawyers, they can actually tell you that he was killed immediately without delay because they knew he's a journalist that speaks the truth. And remember that during the Ngabu massacre, the guy who exposed the regime, the whistleblower of Ngabu, was summarily executed, and the well is quiet because of that. So that is how the government operates. If they have somebody that they consider dangerous to the regime because he's doing his job, because he's exposing the atrocity of the regime, they have to do away with him immediately. So if you want to know a clear time frame, there is clear evidence, and there is that possibility that he was killed without delay.
So just finally then, Patrick, in terms of the family getting access to the body, have they had that? I mean, I think maybe that will clarify something so that they can bury their loved one. I mean, has that been clarified? Yeah,
the family has been updated, has been told that, but they have not seen the body, of which we had from various news sources that the body is has been taken to a mortuary in Yaoundé, but I'm not so certain whether the family has had access to the body. But that is what is happening right now, and that is the information that we as a center have.
All right. Patrick, as always, thank you very much for coming through and sharing this with us. Appreciate your time and your insight.
It's a pleasure. Thank you to the listener of Power FM.
That's Patrick Ayu. Again, it's quite stressful to see some of these things happening in the continent. I mean, they still happen. The issue of journalists being abducted because they wrote this. I mean, Patrick speaking about Mimi Mofu, we spoke to her, and I mean, she had to flee the country because of just what she wrote, of just what her opinion of what the government is doing. And sometimes you wonder, as much as we criticize the governments of South Africa and close by, we still a little bit better off, as it were.
You've been listening to a Power 98.7 podcast. For more podcasts, visit power987.co.za or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.